Hello and welcome back to In the Corner. I'm Cash. This is episode 13, middle of the week episode. Going to be more news heavy. We have a lot of headlines to go through. The biggest ones that we're going to talk about more towards the beginning are Canelo versus Jake Paul, potentially in May. We talked last episode about Canelo and Terrence Crawford being not announced but confirmed and reported by the Ring magazine, so we know it's legit. And we're hearing that Canelo's opponent that he's going to fight in May could be Jake Paul. So we'll talk about that. Speaking of Jake Paul, we have KSI versus Dillon Danis, which was announced for a pay-per-view show on March 29th. So I'll give you my thoughts on that. And then we also some other big things. Some fight announcements are going on. Regis Prograis is out of the Oscar Duarte fight. Top Rank and WBC were involved in a meeting among other top boxing business people in Vegas to discuss how to deal, was the term used, how to deal with the Turki Alalshikh Dana White TKO Boxing League. So we're going to talk about that and what that could mean. So let's just hop right into it. So the next episode is going to come out on Friday, probably in the morning, where we'll talk more about UFC 312, Chisora vs. Volin, all the big cards coming out this weekend. But that's going to be on Friday. Thursday night, we have an Eye of the Tiger card, again in Montreal, I believe. Yep, at the Montreal Casino. They're like home base, really. And it's going to be 5 10-rounders and 2 8-rounders. So that's a lot of rounds for an Eye of the Tiger show. Usually they don't have that many long fights. This is obviously different. They've got a lot of their higher ranked, higher moved along prospects on the card. But they also always get really early knockouts. I feel like you watch an Eye of the Tiger show, 2 out of 8 fights will go the distance, maybe. Usually it's just like 1. They bring in a lot of Argentinian journeymen as well, so I'm guessing there may be some of those tomorrow night. It's odd that they bring in so many guys from Argentina specifically. I don't really know what's going on there. But anyways, headlined by Arthur Biarslanov versus Muhammad Mimon. Biarslanov is a pretty good prospect, kind of rising contender at 140 pounds. He's the NABF belt. He's in with Muhammad Mimon, the same guy who beat and stopped Tyrone McKenna in, I believe it was Belfast. And that was last August in a rematch. So pretty good fight, I think. I think the Biarslanov will definitely beat him, but they're getting him in there with a pretty tough opponent. So hopefully we get to see a good fight, but I think Biarslanov will again get it done. And then we've also got on that card in the co-main event, I believe, is Bakodir Jalalev. Listen, I think that this guy's really good. I think he's now a 2-time Olympic champion. He's in the heavyweight division. But my main thing is that, what's their plan with them? Because he's not even on a top-ranked show here. He's on an Eye of the Tiger show. He's in with David Spilmont, who is 16-8-1. I mean, Jalalev is very, very high level, and this is a 10-round fight. So he is far enough in the pro game where I like to see him start to, maybe, I'm not saying, okay, go in there and fight Martin Bakole. No, but I am saying that you can go in there and you can fight somebody who is at least somewhat of a name. Kind of the approach that they had Jared Anderson taking in 2023. Start that with Jalalev. Because there's no point in, keep on delaying him and such. But I think he's really good. He'll probably get a first-round knockout or something like that. Also on the card is Albert Ramirez. He returns against Marco Kalic, who only has 1 loss on his record. Ramirez undefeated, of course. Very good fighter at 175 pounds. I think he's ranked in the top 5 with almost all the sanctions, so he's definitely due a title shot pretty soon. So those are your 3 main fights on this card. You've got Christopher Guerrero on the card. He steps up to 10 rounds. You've got Mehmet Unal on the card, also in a 10-rounder, and then you have Avery Martin Duval and Moreno Fendero. And I believe Moreno Fendero was the fighter who had, he was the one who had a knockout of the year contender in October. So if you haven't seen that one, it's his knockout over Pavel Albrecht. It was terrifying. So, should be a really good show. Starts at 6:30 tomorrow. Yeah, I'm excited for it. Now let's talk about some of these other topics. So, like I said, last episode we talked a lot about Canelo Alvarez, Terrence Crawford. We know that there's a deal in place. Plans are in place. We don't know if it's been signed yet, but it's been confirmed it's going to happen. They are going to fight on the September 13th. And it was also reported since then that it will be at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Not T-Mobile Arena like everyone was thinking. It's going to be in a stadium. And I love this. Well, actually, I don't know if I fully love it because I do love the T-Mobile Arena. I like the arena feel, but stadium fights are awesome. We don't really get them in the U.S. that much. To have one in Vegas with Canelo and Crawford is big. They're going to sell so many tickets. And I'm glad that they're doing this. Part of me expected they would do this because we know His Excellency. He doesn't like doing just basic old arena fights. I mean, if you look at the Kingdom Arena, it's fantastic. You know, it's huge. It has a very different feel. There's all the screens and stuff. It's totally different than any arena in America or England. And then when he went to America and England, he obviously did Wembley Stadium, and he also did a smaller soccer stadium here in Los Angeles in the U.S. So now it looks like he's going to do another stadium. So I kind of saw that coming. But regardless, I'm excited. It's going to be awesome. I am kind of happy that they confirmed it so early on. So we're going to have like all year to just get excited for it. As for if they're going to have interim fights, I assume Crawford won't. He fights once a year. I don't think he's going to make an exception this year. As much as I would like him to, I don't think that he will. Canelo, on the other hand, we know always likes to fight in May. And I think he may be fighting Jake Paul. Well, not that I think. That's what people are saying. I don't know if I fully think that he will. However, the report is that it's already been agreed that it'll be MVP, PBC, and Canelo Promotions will put on an event together to be headlined by Canelo Alvarez versus Jake Paul. We don't know what weight this would be at. I would assume it'd have to be at something, at the lowest it'd be like 185, because that's as low as Jake Paul can go. We know Canelo can probably get out there. He walks around at about 190. Maybe it's around 190. I don't know. Coincidentally, right after this was reported, Jake Paul tweeted saying, "It's time, July 5th, New York City." So it seems that he has a plan to fight July 5th in New York, which I'm a little bit confused by, also because that's just a bit longer out of the ring for him than I thought, and comes along with him saying that not him saying, but the Canelo report's coming out. We also know that he's been saying that this is his biggest one yet. And we also know that he said, I saw Mike Malak, who's Logan Paul's best friend on their podcast, say that Jake Paul's fight announcement is going to blow everyone's mind. It's bigger than Mike Tyson. It's the craziest thing of all time. And when I think that the only thing I could think of that's honestly bigger than Mike Tyson, you can think Conor McGregor maybe, but I don't think that's really happening. I think it could be Canelo, which if so, that's nuts. Because we know Jake Paul's whole career goal has been to fight Canelo one day. And I thought, yeah, it may happen in 4 years when Canelo's like, all right, I'm done, pretty much gonna retire. Let me just fight Jake Paul, go get a little paycheck, because we know Canelo will run through him. But it seems like it's gonna happen now, and I don't hate this because we know that Canelo has a big fight against Crawford at the end of the year, so he's not gonna want to take a fight that will really to jeopardize that. So, I mean, he knows he'll beat Jake Paul, and he's gonna make way more money for it. I mean, you can't even tell me Canelo Crawford. He may make more money, but there is no way that the Terrence Crawford fight more people tune in for than the Jake Paul fight. Jake Paul can sell, especially against somebody like Canelo, where Canelo already sells on his own. I mean, that crossover appeal and that people being like, "Oh, finally, Jake Paul is in there with somebody who can, clean him out." I don't know. I don't know. Part of me is cynical towards it because I don't have the facts. I don't know if it's legit. I'm waiting for something to be announced. Also, Eddie Reynoso just said the other day that they're still looking at Billy and Skull for May. So it seems like unless they're all doing a crazy good job at trying to hide it and it just got reported. Because remember when Jake Paul and Mike Tyson got announced, there was no reports about that. It just, boom, they announced it and it broke the whole world. So that could be what they're trying to go through here. MVP is pretty good at keeping stuff under wraps, more so than the traditional boxing world is. But who knows? This could be happening, and I would be interested to see it happen because we know Canelo will beat Jake Paul, but it'd be a massive event. It'd be just crazy, and I mean, just think about that year for Canelo. Jake Paul, Terrence Crawford fights, probably the two biggest money fights for him that he could make. Yeah, it'll be nuts. On the other side of the YouTube spectrum, we have KSI. KSI was supposed to fight Wayne Bridge. And I'll just start with this. This is a better fight than Wayne Bridge. It absolutely is. He's fighting Dillon Danis. There's a storyline there. There's beef there. This fight was meant to happen 2 years ago. And Dillon Danis pulled out for really no reason. They're both coming off losses. It's a comeback fight for KSI. He's been out of the ring for 15 months. Dillon Danis is big with Misfits and the whole, community there. He has a name. So I don't hate the fight overall. I think that there's reasons for it. My main issues are, one, this is not going to be competitive in the slightest. We saw how Logan Paul utterly dominated Dillon Danis, and that was Logan Paul. And I like to think that KSI is a bit better than Logan Paul. At least he's more ferocious in that he's going to go in for the kill. Dillon Danis doesn't throw. Secondly, I don't want to put up with Dillon Danis for 2 more months. I thought we were done with this guy. I haven't heard about him in a long time, except for when he joined the GFL and nobody drafted him, I think. But so I don't know why he's fighting here. His trolling and just everything about him, I just think he's like the ultimate like scum of like the whole combat sports world. Nobody likes him. He's not entertaining. I mean, his trolls are kind of funny sometimes, but he crosses the line. He's not a good fighter. He's not even funny all that much. He's just like, I don't want to put up with watching him that much. And like, when you had KSI versus Tommy Fury and Logan Paul versus Dillon Danis, I feel like that was more natural. Now it just feels like, okay, KSI couldn't fight anyone, so he's legit. This is literally fighting Logan Paul's leftovers. He's just gonna go over and he's just gonna fight, the next guy. So, I don't know how I feel about it. It's gonna be a big event. They're doing it in the same arena that they had when they had the Prime card. So that's kind of cool. I'm guessing it'll be a big card. The poster looks pretty sick. I've seen that MVP is posting saying, oh, they're copying the Paul versus Silva poster. I mean, it's a very popular poster style. I think it looks cool, especially for Misfits. They have good posters, but they're all kind of the same. This one's different. There's no X in the background. I think that this could be a really fun build-up. I mean, they're already going crazy on Twitter with each other's families, but I don't know if that means that the fight's going to be good. The fight's going to be awful. And I really just don't want to hear Dillon Danis talk all this smack when literally nobody, including Dillon, thinks that he'll beat KSI. So, I don't know. Another developing story that's been going on over the past few weeks or months, I should say, is Saudi Arabia, Turki Alalshikh, His Excellency, whatever, and Dana White with UFC and TKO are looking to start a boxing league. And just last week in Saudi Arabia, they were photographed together with some of the guys at TKO, and Turkey saying, oh, they're building up something big related to boxing. And, he's talked about, like, oh, yeah, we're looking to do something like a league. It'll be announced at some point. It's expected to launch this fall. Just this week in Las Vegas, Bob Arum, along with Mauricio Suleiman and some other people, met to discuss, and this was Mike Coppinger's words, he said, how to deal with their plans for this boxing league. And the word deal has me really interested because if I know, Mauricio Suleiman is fully on board with Turkey, absolutely, and Bob Arum does a lot of business with him, so they definitely have a good relationship there, but this is showing that they're worried. Especially, I would assume that WBC would be worried because, they get kicked out of, they're starting a boxing league, that means only having one belt. And that would mean that the WBC would kind of get pushed out. And if you look at Top Rank, if they're going to do a boxing league similar to the UFC, it's where it all falls under one promoter. So they would also want to, stop this from happening. So what we've seen, it seemed like over the past few years that, boxing's all coming together, everyone's working together. It seems that His Excellency and Dana White, who's kind of the outside guy, have now come together and they're having an idea. And all the people in boxing feel like, oh, wait, we're actually about to get left behind. So I'm worried. Not worried, but I'm very interested to see how this all plays out. I think we could be seeing the potential for like a boxing civil war where a lot of people are going to be switching over and Turkey's going to be buying up sanctioning bodies, buying up promotions, and other ones are going to try and fight this. So I have no idea what's going on. I'm waiting for them to officially announce this, and then we can get everybody's, thoughts on it. Like, I mean, I want to hear all the promoters talk about it, all the sanctioning presidents, all the fighters. It's supposed to launch this fall. Like, who are they going to get? Because they got to lock these guys down to contracts. So I'm really excited to see how this all plays out. But the word deal with has me thinking they don't like this, they're worried about it, and they're going to, deal with means combat it. So it could get really messy here in boxing in the next year or so. So we'll see what happens. Okay, let's go through. I've got a lot of other headlines, so we'll just run through. Janibek Alimkhanuly, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I apologize. He is going to have his Uzbekistan homecoming fight. It was announced today on April 5th. He's fighting Anuel Ngamisegwe. Very hard name to pronounce as well. I believe that he's number 7 with the IBF, so Janibek will be defending his IBF and WBO world middleweight titles. I mean, I'm not going to lie, this isn't the best opponent for him. I think that he's probably the number 1 guy at 160 pounds. It's either him or Hamza Shiraz. He needs to be unifying. I don't know what Top Rank is doing with him. I mean, this isn't even going to be a Top Rank event, of course. It seems like a lot of Top Rank's fighters are going to fight on other events, that are still like Top Rank are involved with. But, you got Jalalev this week. The guys in Japan always fight on their own cards. But Turbiev is going over, and he's fighting on Saudi Arabia. Janibek is having his homecoming. I feel like a lot of Top Rank has not been putting on as many cards this year, and I wonder if Janibek is doing this because he's kind of. We heard reports that he was supposed to headline like an ESPN card in March, and it seems like that's not happening. I wonder if he's kind of frustrated. He's like, okay, can I at least just get my homecoming? And for Janibek to be number 1 in the division, he's got to be fighting other top guys in the division. He really should be fighting another champion. And it doesn't seem like they're really making any strides to, have those talks and have those negotiations with PBC, who have the other 2 champions in the division, to try and make that fight happen. Hopefully, let's say Shiraz beats Adames on February 22nd, we can get that fight, because that one I think is the best fight in the division. I totally think that they're number 1 and 2. Another announced fight today was Subriel Matias versus Gabriel Valenzuela, I believe it is. They will fight March 1st in Puerto Rico on a Salida Promotions show. So I think that Matias has signed with him, which is interesting. And it will be for the IBF Super Lightweight Final Eliminator. So winner of this fight will be mandatory for Richardson Hitchens, or the winner of the Hitchens and Tiafimo fight, because it looks like they could be unifying, although there's some negotiation disputes, it looks like, as there always is. But regardless, they're going to be mandatory for whoever has that IBF belt. I like this fight. I think it's good. I'm glad that Subriel Matias, he had a loss to Liam Paro, had a fight in November, and now he's right back into looking to get into the title picture with an eliminator. Should he win, him and Hitchens, I don't know if that's a good fight for him. We saw what happened with Liam Paro, who, kind of fought fire with Matias, but in a way outboxed him. And then Hitchens totally outboxed Liam Paro. So I don't think that Matias really wants to fight Hitchens. I think that Hitchens will just dance circles around him. So, but who knows? I'm excited for this fight. It's really cool to see Salita, kind of step up their game. They've been, last year, they had the Clarissa Shields event last year, but other than that, it was all the big-time Boxing USA cards where, not as big fights in these smaller arenas, just all these, so-so American prospects. Now it seems like they're actually getting to a better level where they've got Clarissa Shields. She just had an event. She's undisputed champion 3 times over. They've got Subriel Matias versus Gabriel Valenzuela. They had an undisputed championship and an IBF world title eliminator, so that's already just doing good. They got their guy Ardriel Holmes in an eliminator as well with Erickson Lubin, but that looks like it could end up on Pro Box. We'll see. Speaking of Pro Box, I'll just talk about it right now. They have their event this weekend, Ramon Cardenas versus Brian Acosta. It was meant to be, co-main event was meant to be Joshawn James versus Lester Martinez. Lester Martinez has fallen ill. I believe that's exactly what happened last time when they were meant to fight, and I think it was September, but that was the day of the fight. One of them got ill. I think it was maybe even Martinez. So that fight has been postponed. However, it is now penciled in for March 22nd. They've already announced or confirmed that it'll be on that date, so that's good. That's not too far out. However, that's also another Saturday show, which I don't love Pro Box trying to switch to Saturdays. I think Friday is a perfect realm for them to operate in. Saturday, you've got too many other big events going on. They're doing an event February 8th and March 8th, both of which are on the same night and time as UFC pay-per-views. Nobody's going to watch Pro Box TV over UFC pay-per-views. I'm sorry. Maybe they're just the guys who only watch boxing. I watch both. And I'll probably watch them both at the same time if there's no other fights going on, but I always think that it's smarter for these smaller promotions to, know their place and to work on Thursday, Friday, Sunday even. But I do love Pro Box. I think that they're great. I just think that Saturday is a little bit risky. So we're hearing that fresh off his loss to Sergey Pavlovich at UFC Saudi Arabia that Jairzinho Rozenstruik has been cut from the UFC. I hope that this isn't the case. I know that it was not a good fight. It was not exciting. But Rosenstruck is also, he was on a little bit of a win streak before this, at least like 2 or 3 wins or something. And then he has one loss to Pavlovich, who's pretty highly ranked, and he gets cut. That seems a little bit ridiculous to me. Hopefully he goes to PFL or somebody. It may also be because he hasn't had the most entertaining and flashy performances, but, I don't think it's fair to cut somebody when they come off one loss. That's kind of stupid to me. Anyways, also another big news topic. Naoya Inoue versus Alan Picasso is looking like it's going to be June 14th in Las Vegas, probably at the T-Mobile Arena. T-Mobile Arena is a little bit interesting to me because we know that Inoue is a superstar around the world, but how much is he known to average American boxing fans? Granted, it's Vegas. That's where you have a lot of the big boxing fans, but for him to sell out an American arena, that could be a little bit hard, especially against Picasso, who is from Mexico and probably does have somewhat of a following, but he's not like he's like a big fighter from America, who could really help with the load on selling tickets. So we'll see what happens, but I'm excited for that. I'm excited for him to come over. It's a little bit later than I would have liked. I thought the plan was April, and I really don't like him fighting in June, September, October, because at that rate, you're putting him to have 3 months in between each fight when you could have done it like April, because we know that he could move in April after his fight. We have no idea how the fight with Picasso is going to go. It could go 12 rounds. So, I would have liked to see him back in April against Picasso, back in August or September with MJ, and then December looks like he's going to move to featherweight and fight Nick Bald, most likely. Regardless, I'm just excited to see the monster come to the U.S. and not have to wake up at 4 a.m. to watch him. We had an announcement of a card for March 29th in Japan. It'll be Angel Ayala versus Masamichi Yabuki. That'll be for the IBF Flyweight World Championship. Yabuki is the 108 champion. He goes to 112. That's a really good fight. Really, really good fight. I'm hoping that it'll be somehow broadcast in America because I would love to watch it. I think Yabuki will probably take it. And then also on that card, we have the rematch between Melvin Jerusalem and Yude Shigeoka. That'll be for the WBC minimum weight strap. Again, another really good fight. I love how these Japan cards are stacked with all like the lower weight talent. I believe that Angelo Leo and Tomoki Kameda was supposed to be on this card as the headliner maybe even, but that has, of course, been moved to May 24th is what we're hearing. Anyways, really hope they can get this streamed in the U.S. because I, would like to watch it. Another low-weight fight. The WBC have ordered the rematch between Pradabsri and Canizales. They fought for the WBC 108 championship in December, and I didn't see the fight, but I heard that it was very controversial and that Canizales, everyone thought Canizales won, but they gave the decision to Pradabsri, which, I mean, it was his hometown, I know, and he was getting booed in it. I saw Canizales fight Kenshiro Taraji last year. I thought that he may have even won that fight, so I do feel bad for him. Whenever he gets up to his world title shot, he just gets bad luck. So it's good that they're ordering an intermediate rematch. I like when they do that. Same thing that the WBC did with Oshaki Foster and Robson Conceição. As soon as it happened, it was unjust. They're like, we need to fix it, and they ordered it back immediately. I love that. We should always do that. The IBF have ordered Nunes versus Rikishi for 130 pounds, their super featherweight title. Good fight. It'll probably end up in Japan. I expect Sugar Nunes to win that one. Then he brings the title over. And, yeah, we'll see what Matchroom does with him from there. I wouldn't be surprised if we know that Matchroom has Zelfa Barrett and Ray Ford. They're looking to match them up. Winner of that fight, they'll probably motion to try and get them a fight with Nunes. Lamont Roach is also another possibility that they're looking at, as is Oshaki Foster. I know for Ray Ford, some big American fighters. But Sugar Nunes is likely to get his world title shot. Another good thing that they could do with him is have him fight Eduardo Rocky Hernandez in an all-Mexican war. So, yeah, hopefully that fight gets booked for the first half of the year. We know that Lee Wood just vacated that belt. We'll talk not Lee Wood. Anthony Kakache just vacated that belt to fight Lee Wood. We'll talk about that in a minute. Frank Warren, it appears that he is signing Delicious Ori, who is the I think he's British, but he's an Olympic standout. I heard that he was potentially looking to go to the WWE, which is pretty surprising that he was going to go to the WWE. but looks like he's going to stick with boxing, which is cool. They've been teasing this announcement, and I'm just seeing everybody say, oh, it's Delicious Ori. And I was watching the Ariel and Ade show the other night, and Ade just straight up said, yes, you announced a few days ago that you signed Delicious Ori when it hasn't actually been announced yet. And Frank didn't necessarily confirm, oh, yeah, we've signed him, but he also didn't argue with Ade. So it makes me think, okay, yeah, that's what it is, but, whatever. Cool that they got him. We know that they run the heavyweight division. Is Delicious Ori a heavyweight? I thought he was. I could be totally wrong. Anyways, Lucas Body versus Ryan James Rakaza for March 7th. So we know that he's going to headline the MVP Prospects show in Toronto. Really excited for that event. Should be pretty fun. This is going to be his third undefeated opponent in a row. We know he had the fight with H2O Silv, which he won by a very, very brutal knockout. He was losing that fight and then landed that shot from hell out of nowhere. And then he had the fight with Casamonica on the Paul Tyson card. Very close fight. Not sure if he deserved the decision. Anyways, he's right back into it with another undefeated opponent. So, hopefully he can get the win in his hometown because he's highly ranked with the WBA. And it seems like MVP still has H2O, but I feel like they've kind of moved a lot of their investment from H2O into Body, which I find very interesting. BKFC announced their event for Philly on March 21st. Dave Feldman has said that he wants to make the city of Philadelphia, which is where they're all from, he wants to make that the home base for BKFC. He wants to be like a franchise there, like you have the Eagles who are going to the Super Bowl, and stuff like that. He wants BKFC to be like that. It'll be headlined by Pag versus Angel Kaur. Should be a pretty good fight night. It'll be at the 2300 Arena, as expected. So I'm excited for that. I love BKFC. Cool that they're going to keep on coming to Philly. I think that they're going to do like 5 or 6 shows a year there, which is pretty cool. So Oscar Duarte and what was meant to be Regis Prograis is now off. Apparently, Prograis injured his shoulder, and I don't know if it's been officially announced yet, but I think they're saying, Prograis saying it's not looking good, and he, hates to do all this training for nothing, so it seems like he is out of the fight on just, we're 10 days out? Is that right? Yeah, I think about 10 days out. So that's a shame, of course. Hopefully that they can get a good opponent. Luckily, they just announced the undercard a few days ago, and it's Darius Fulgham in the co-main event, Ricardo Sandoval, Joel Iriarte will start up the card, and also on the main card is Kenneth Sims Jr. So first of all, that's a pretty good card, I think. For Golden Boy, not bad. DFG in the main event is in the co-main event is a little bit surprising, but good event nonetheless. Kenneth Sims was meant to fight Oscar Duarte in November. He's 140, same division. There is no reason why not to make that as their placement fight. I think that may even be a better fight, just matchup-wise. We know that Prograis was, he's kind of on his way out, and I think that Prograis is a better fighter than Sims altogether, but Prograis isn't what he once was, and I would worry for him against Duarte, who's so dangerous. Duarte versus Sims is a lot more interesting. It's two guys on the come-up, and I think that Duarte would still probably win that one, so now that we know that Prograis is out of the picture, it seems, I would like them to get Sims in to come in as the backup. All right, Caleb Plant is supposed to return in the summer of 2025. He wants to fight Edgar Berlanga, Jermall Charlo, and Jaime Munguia is who he listed. What I like about Caleb Plant is, first of all, he's real. Second of all, now that he's lost to Canelo, but he's still at the top of the division, I think he's the WBA interim champion. I don't want to see him rematch Canelo. I don't think that he really wants to. So he can now fight the other top guys in the division, the guys that we've already seen fight Canelo. Because I feel like all the big fights at 168, it's just Canelo versus somebody else. We don't get them fighting each other until after they lose. Because, everybody wants to stay undefeated. They want to keep on getting the fights that they'll know that they win until they get the world title shot. Now that they've gotten the world title shot and they didn't win, let's all just fight each other. I mean, Caleb Plant versus Edgar Berlanga is brilliant. I think that's totally the fight to make. Diego Pacheco, they've said that they want him to fight Jaime Munguia, even though he hasn't gotten the Canelo shot yet. I wouldn't mind that. All these guys, let's just match them up now. I think it's the perfect time to. And, yeah, man, those are all good fights for him. I hope that Caleb Plant can get a big fight. I would love to see him fight Edgar Berlanga, particularly. Teofimo Lopez posted his offer from Top Rank, which are his incentives he was supposed to get for his March 15th fight with Subriel Matias before that was canceled, of course. So it was meant to be on pay-per-view, and essentially he said that they were trying to set it up in a way that they give him incentives that he knew that they wasn't going to reach. It was like he'll get 50% of all the money made from pay-per-view sales after 100,000 buys, which not sure if it would. And then it was everything with the gate after, I think, 2.5 million, which I'm not sure they would hit either of those metrics. And he was saying he agreed with that. He said this would be my first pay-per-view, and they're trying to undercut me and trying to say, oh, I'm not gonna, trying to prove that I wouldn't be able to hit it. So I don't know what's going on with Top Rank. They have a lot of disputes with their fighters, but it does seem like they really are struggling to get a pay-per-view star. All the big American pay-per-view stars are either with PBC or Riyadh season. We don't really have that many at all. Teofimo, he could be one, but he's not one as of right now. So, not sure what his next step is. Hopefully it is Richardson Hitchens. I'm not sure. But we know after that he's probably going to move it to 147 pounds and then fight Boots Ennis. Frank Warren said that there's going to be a press conference on Monday where they're going to announce their slate of shows for DAZN. I think that they're going to announce at least 3 shows. I'm really excited for this. One that we know is probably going to happen is Anthony Kakache versus Lee Wood. That apparently is going to be on May 10th in Nottingham, where Lee Wood is from. So that's pretty cool that they're going to do that fight. I don't think that Lee Wood is with Matchroom anymore. I think they had some issues where I assumed that Lee Wood wasn't fighting for a bigger reason. It was apparently just because he and Matchroom wasn't paying him what he wanted. Where, their reasoning, and Eddie Hearn even talked about it, he was like, when they're doing the Lee Wood shows, they keep on paying him more and more because he's getting these good performances, but the events don't make that much money to warrant him getting that paycheck. So I guess that he went over to Queensberry and they're going to pay for him that way, but I'm not sure. Another thing that I assume that we'll have announced, because Frank Warren said that they hope to announce it soon, is what's next for Moses Atama. He said that he will be fighting in the next 3 months. It makes sense to announce it at this DAZN press conference. I think that it will probably... I'm not sure who it will be. I think that Kubrat Pulev is a very big option. They can do that one and then have him be a world champion. I don't know how much anybody would really believe it, but it technically is a world champion after that. You could do... The Justice Hooney fight will come one day. Charles Martin recently called him out. That could be a good fight that Atama would win. There's a lot of good fights out there for him. But we'll probably get that announced, and I would assume that we're going to get another, likely a smaller card announced as well. Maybe their first York Hall show of the year, if they're still doing those. So I'm excited to see this presser on Monday. And, just to see what they're kind of planning. Because we don't often get press conferences where they announce a ton of events at once. That's a cool idea. Ryan Garcia is back with Eddie Reynoso. That's pretty cool. We know that him and Canelo had some issues after they were, stablemates, and it seems like they've worked those out. I'm a little bit interested, though, because from what I hear, Ryan Garcia is going to fight May 2nd. Canelo's going to fight May 3rd, which is already crazy. If that's true, how is Eddie Reynoso going to be in both places? We know he's going to go with Canelo. So I don't know what that leaves Ryan with. So I don't know how much it's true, but I think that they're saying, oh, yeah. I don't know what capacity they're working together. It could be one of those things like, oh, yeah, we're working together. He's going to give me some tips, but it's not like he's going to be in camp with Reynoso every day. Benavidez will be ringside for Beterbiev Bivol 2. I love that. He's chasing the fight. He wants it. Please make it happen for the undisputed light heavyweight championship. He's undoubtedly the number 1 contender to whoever wins that fight. Yeah, that's awesome that he's going to come ringside for it. Because I was worried that he may be trying to find a way out of it with saying, oh, no, it needs to be in Vegas. But regardless, it looks like it's going to happen. Andy Ruiz is back in training post-handbrake in the Miller fight. Yeah, he really didn't look good. And I was kind of upset, as most people were when it was a draw, because I totally thought Jarrell Miller won that. And then he holds up his hand and shows why it's broken. I was like, okay, that's why he performed, not well. So it's good to see that he's back in training. I don't really know who he fights. I wouldn't mind seeing the Jarrell Miller rematch. We know Miller was supposed to fight Chisora, then Salida got in the way. So I hope that Miller first can solve his dispute with Salida, and then they can get the Andy Ruiz rematch going. Because it wasn't the best fight, but it was okay. And I thought they definitely deserve a rematch, because I thought Miller won and it was a draw. And if there's ever a draw, you should probably do a rematch. Andy Ruiz. Oh, wait, no, sorry. I just said that. Alexander Povetkin, apparently was on Ostarine, and 10 years of his fight results, are being revoked. Now, this hasn't gone into an effect as of this morning on BoxRec, but it looks like a lot of his fights are going to be changed into no contest, I believe, after he had, apparently was using Ostarine for a long time. I don't know how something like this happens and is under investigation for this long. I mean, these fights that we're talking about were like 10 years ago. What were you doing? I feel like it doesn't take 10 years to get a drug sample back. So, and they let him go on and fight other people. So that's a little bit ridiculous. Speaking of the heavyweight division, Anthony Joshua versus Martin Bakole. We heard that there were some rumors about it potentially happening. Eddie Hearn is saying that there's been no conversations about it. This makes sense. I don't think that either of them are. I don't think that fight makes sense right now. Martin Bakole is close to getting a heavyweight title shot. Anthony Joshua is on the comeback trail. So I would love to see that fight in Africa. I think that's a brilliant fight, but just don't think it makes sense for either guy at this moment. And I think that Bakole and his team are trying to wish a lot of these fights into existence without actually seriously discussing them. BKFC announced today it's heading to Australia this year. That's awesome. They're on a big, just growth right now. I love to see them getting to go to Australia. They've announced Dubai, Italy, even Philly for them is a big win. So I think they're about to have their first show in LA soon. Have they already done LA? No, they have done LA. They're supposed to do another big city soon. So it's just really cool to see them expand so much and go around the world. Yeah, very excited for that. Kayomihin, I don't know how to say his name, Agyarko is going to be on the top tier show. He just announced in the co-main event. That's on March 30th. They have another event this weekend, by the way. Tom Wellens fights, but he'll be co-main to the Urso James fight, which would be for the Commonwealth belt, by the way. That'll be on March 30th at York Hall. He'll be in the co-main. Not going to be on the Crocker Donovan show. They were talking about him fighting someone. I can't remember right now who they said it was going to be, but from what I remember, it sounded like it was going to be a good fight. They've obviously announced this card already, and he wasn't on it. So, sucks that he's not on that card. However, it is good that he can build up this other card because people are going to watch Crocker Donovan either way. He can bring more eyes to the top tier show. But I am curious if there was some kind of dispute there. Bobby Green is back. He fights UFC 313 against Duffy. What's his first name? I can't remember right now. It is Mauricio. Yeah, Mauricio Ruffy or Rufy. I'm not sure. But Bobby King Green against Mauricio Rufy. Great fight. I think that'll be really entertaining. Hopefully, Green is pretty up there, so I don't know how much more he has left in the cage. He obviously got submitted quite quick by Paddy the Baddy recently. But this should be a pretty good fight. I'm excited for it. Yeah, that'll be on UFC 313 March 8th in Vegas on the Pereira undercard. Hopefully they're going to build that one to be a big one, as it is in Vegas, of course. Speaking of UFC, Sharamagomedov potentially could be retiring. Now, he said he'll be back soon after his loss, but a lot of the doctors in the UAE are telling him that he should retire because of his only one eye, and he's going to get some brain damage, and he's losing his vision. It's deteriorating, and he could get serious brain damage from this. So they're encouraging him not to fight, and this sucks, because he's very good and he only has one eye, and there's some technical difficulties. It sucks for Shara because he only has one eye, and he's very good at fighting. He's really entertaining. He's a huge star, and he's not able to fight, it seems. He can't fight in the U.S. for the same reason. Now he's finding out he may not be able to fight in the Middle East. He wants to fight, but it may not be safe for him, and he's being told to retire. So hopefully he can still fight, but also you don't want him to get, brain damage. You don't want him to lose more of his vision. It's a tough situation to be in, but hopefully he can do what's ever best for him and his health. Last thing we'll talk about, Derek Chisora, Auto Volin is this weekend. I'm excited for it. Should be pretty good. Apparently, it is now an official IBF eliminator for number 2 in their rankings. We know they already have an eliminator for number 1 with Bakole and Ajagba. Now Chisora and Volin fight for number 2. It's a little bit silly to me. I think that neither of these guys should be anywhere near a title shot right now. I think it's a good matchup for where they both are in their careers. I think Volin will actually maybe outbox him. It's just not a good style for Chisora. But I think that I just don't think that this is fair to have them fight for an eliminator. We know that Chisora is literally about to retire in his next fight. I don't see him trying to actually fight for the title one last time against Dubois because he's going to retire right after, and I don't want to see him in a ring with Daniel Dubois. It's too dangerous for him. And then again, I want him to fight Ngannou or Wilder, which is the same predicament. But, it's a little bit different. I don't think he deserves the title shot. Neither do I think that Volin does. So, it doesn't really matter, I guess, in the long run, but I don't know. I just think there's other people in the rankings that are more deserving of a title shot than these two. Regardless, it should be a good fight. That's all I've got for today. Hope everyone is having a good week. I'll have another episode probably Friday morning where we'll preview all the cards this weekend. There's the GBM show on Friday, which we'll talk about. Then there'll be the Pro Box and BKFC UK cards that are on Saturday. They're a little bit smaller cards. We've got the big Queensberry show we just talked about with Derek Chisora, Otto Volin, heavyweight fight in Manchester. That night, we're going to have UFC 312, which is actually in Sydney, Australia, on Sunday, technically. Middleweight title fight between Dricus du Plessis and Sean Strickland, the rematch. Co-main event is the strawweight title between Tatiana Suarez challenging Zhang Weili. So that should be a pretty good fight. And then Sunday, we have the top tier show with Tom Welland headlining. Thank you so much for listening. Peace out.